I fell asleep beneath the flowers. For a couple of hours. On a beautiful day. Daydream. I dream of you amid the flowers. For a couple of hours. Such a beautiful day.
As I spy from behind my giant robot's eyes, I keep him happy cause I might fall out if he cries. Scared of heights, so I might.
Yeah, slavery happened. That was a thing.
Well, generally slavery, I guess. That's the first one that comes to mind.
Well, slavery, obviously.
Slavery and Jim Crow.
I guess, well, for starters, just an institution of slavery.
For sure. I mean, we can go to the institution of slavery.
The policies of sharecropping, which kept African Americans basically still in slavery.
Okay, so most notably, slavery.
So I guess slavery was a big one.
Yeah, segregation in schools and stuff.
Segregation of blacks and whites.
Jim Crow laws, like in the 1900s, all that.
Like, I'm thinking about the Jim Crow laws and how a lot of southern states employed laws such as poll taxes or literacy tests.
Like the Jim Crow laws and all that, and segregation.
Jim Crow laws.
The big ones, the major ones, would definitely be things like slavery, and then after slavery, you had black codes, and then Jim Crow a little bit later, and then I think arguably the way that we handle immigration can often be seen as racist.
There was the Jim Crow era, which was not very helpful afterwards.
I guess also like segregation was pretty popular and wasn't, I don't know if there were like, I doubt there were like mandates to be like, hey, let's do this segregation thing.
During World War II, the Japanese internment camps.
During the latter half of the 19th century, a lot of immigration policies were racist.
I remember learning in one of my classes about the Chinese Exclusion Act.
Those are the major ones I can think of.
No.
I remember learning about it, but I don't know the specifics.
I don't think, like, I think I've heard of it, but I'm not, like I don't know, like, details about it, but I've definitely heard of it.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, Chinese Exclusion Act that just basically banned Chinese immigrants from immigrating to the United States.
I have not.
That sounds familiar.
Was it around the same time period that they were building railroads and they were worried that too many Chinese people were coming in, so they set up laws that discriminate against them?
I don't think I could tell you much about it.
I've definitely heard of it, but I couldn't tell you much more than just that I've heard of it.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. I think I did learn about it.
I feel like I should know it.
Don't know what it is, but yeah, I don't know what it is. Yes.
Yes. So I believe that was in World War II.
I think it occurred during Pearl Harbor.
Yes. Not like extensively, but I know that happened around Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
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 Yeah, that was be with like Japanese people. I don't remember when, like date-wise, it would have been.
Yeah, I learned about that in like U.S. history.
Installed during World War II because of fear that Japanese were planning like spies.
Yeah, during the Second World War. First one. I don't know.
Second,
yeah. Second.
Who?
Not a thing.
The U.S. Braceros program.
I don't know what that is, no.
No.
When they allowed Mexicans to cross the border to work, but then they had to go back, or I know some type of contractual agreement that they can enter the country, but they had to like return. I don't really know the specifics, but
Yes.
I do not.
No.
I have no idea what that is.
I've heard of it, and I don't think I've learned about it in class.
Nope.
No, I don't think I've ever learned about that.
No.
No.
I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar.
yes. No, I do not.
No.
Yes.
No.
No, but I would assume that there were colleges that kind of segregated Native Americans such that they could be educated in probably a certain way.
I don't think so.
No.
No.
I did not.
No.
I did.
Did not.
Yes.
No. Ask me if I was surprised.
Were you surprised?
No.
Yes.
No.
Nope, had no idea.
I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me.
I have heard that. Yeah.
I think I heard that once, but it's kind of, I didn't think about it till now. No, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yes. I don't. Do we even have Native American studies?
Yes.
Yeah, I did know that actually.
Yes, I saw that.
No. I've been aware of it. It's not something that I had like immediately in my mind, but yeah, we don't offer any courses.
I guess I never really thought about it like explicitly.
I guess I've never thought about it.
I hadn't thought about it.
I never really thought about Native American studies, but I guess by extension of my note, if there's not a department, there's probably not a professor dedicated to that. Like I could assume that.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised.
I guess no, I didn't know that there was no professor dedicated to that study.
I'd be surprised if they did.
It's important because people are still affected today.
I definitely think it's important to know the histories.
I can't say like it's important to know this because I don't know it. So like, if I really thought it was important, I would go out of my way to learn it. But it is something that we should know because if you have to support a country and be from a country and love a country, you should know everything about it and everything in its history.
By looking at the U.S. on a world scale or on an international scale, I think it's very enlightening to see how the U.S. Oppresses other minority groups. At my high school, I spent 2 whole years studying AP U.S. history. The first year spanned from a very brief history of the Native people of America up until the Civil War, and then the second year was from Civil War to present day. So we spent 2 whole years on U.S. history, and then only a single year on world history. Like the entire world is only in 1 year. U.S. history spanned over 2. I think by focusing so much on U.S. history for such a long time, like the way that education is set up is definitely making us encouraging this idea of the race issue as like a black and white binary.
And it's interesting by making it a binary kind of system, you discount other people's voices. And I think that it seems to me that might be another tool of
separating, minorities as a whole. I mean, so if you think about, I think there's some Harvard study that says that by 2050, the minorities will become the majority, but it's interesting how like whiteness is lumped into one category when in reality it's Italians, it's Germans, it's your Bulgarians, and by lumping themselves as one, they get to maintain their, I guess their power, if you will, because they've divided us into so many groups. And so, if Brown as a whole can stand up, then we can do something, and maybe work to change some of the, the founding features of this country that was meant to oppress.
Race and racism is sort of woven into the entirety of how our society is structured, and I think a lot of how that presents itself today has direct ties to these instances of oppression that have happened in the past. And I'm not sure that you can understand the way that those operate now without understanding how they came to be.
I don't think we should count them as any less significant just because they may have been less widespread or may have affected fewer people.
It's important to know the history of people of all cultures that call themselves American, no matter how kind of dirty the history is, because it's relevant. Like, if it's just history of a certain group, then it's that history, not American history, because America encompasses a bunch of different groups, no matter race, culture, ethnicity, or anything like that.
I definitely think it's important. I think Williams is a place that prizes itself on diversity and individualism, and everyone has a unique story, and to not allow people to learn about specific stories is not so cool.
If we don't know our history, then we won't know how to prevent the same mistakes from reoccurring. So, and to move forward with the mistakes that we've made. And I feel like that's one of America's hugest problems. So I think it's important.
If we do want to see improvements, knowing that we're still part of that history, knowing that that's not really past, it's not, these aren't things that we've kind of moved from, but things that we can still change today.
I think knowing your history is very important. To kind of quote Marcus Garvey, people that doesn't know their history is like a tree at its roots. But I think especially in terms of U.S. history, and you mentioned the Braceros, and how people think, at least contemporary times, they think that Mexican immigrants, that's a recent phenomenon. I think by knowing, I didn't know about Braceros before, but it really makes you question your government. And I think by not knowing that, you have a blind constituency, and so you get to, the government at least gets to hide its dirty actions. And so it kind of dissuades critical thinking and questioning your government because you have a very passive majority. So knowing your history, I would hope allows you to, A, question authority, and to do more than just question it, to actually do something about it.
It is important because I feel like, especially at Williams, where the emphasis is on diversity, that there should be an effort to learn about different cultures, and it shouldn't just be America this, America that, because especially at this school, I feel like we're building leaders who are going to go out into the world. How can we be world leaders if we know nothing about the world? We don't, it's clear to me that, I didn't even know about American history. So, how can we go out and be leaders if we don't have the background knowledge of ourselves? So it shouldn't be focused on, American culture, American history, and it should be a lot of learning about other cultures, and that term other, what does it mean? I feel like sometimes it's still very segregated at the school. That you walk into Peresky, there's an other corner, and then a lot of the other tables are just sea of white people, even though Williams explicitly says diversity, diversity, diversity. And I feel like in a lot of cases we don't really care about anyone else other than ourselves and our education and our goals and our own future, and we rarely focus on anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, clearly I don't know a lot about them, but I'm an Asian studies major, so I feel like I studied more maybe Asian culture and stuff like that, but not American culture. But like for me, like studying Asian culture is like really important because like not only because I'm Asian, but like because Asian populations are like a big part in America as well. So I think everyone should know like a little bit about like the different parts of like different cultures that make up America, but like obviously not everyone would know everything.
So I definitely do think it's important to learn about like all different sorts or like I guess types of oppression that has happened, because like each one can probably like reveal like another facet or another aspect that maybe isn't covered in the you know like the entire like textbooks you get on like slavery and things like that in like middle school. Yeah, and that is really the only thing they focus on, which I guess I never really thought about much until right now.
I feel like if we just stop teaching people about certain things, it's going to be bad because like a lot of history that's important would be lost. On another level, I feel like we would stop thinking of race as it is, because technically it's a social construct, it's something we make up in our heads. So it's like if we just convince everybody that you just look different because you just look different, and there's no history behind it. If everybody started doing that, things would change. There's a possibility that people would start thinking like that again, which is why I guess we learn history in the first place, but there is the chance that it won't happen.
I think that it's important to not limit education about oppressive institutions to just like chattel slavery, because there's a lot of different forms it can take. And so, I mean, to make a difference and really like the purpose of talking about it is to prevent it from happening again and like say here's what happened in our history, but here's like how not to do that again, you know. And the more forms of that we talk about, the more like knowledge we have about what happened and the more awareness we have to prevent something like that from happening again.
There's no such thing as an overeducated republic, and that should be the goal of a republic and of a democracy.
We cannot expect our students to remember every single law and the who, what, when, wheres, and whys about them. However, we can begin to mold a new understanding of America and what American history really looks like. There are countless of other racially oppressive histories within U.S. history, and I will not pretend to know them all. But I will not consider them other histories, and I refuse to demean their importance. By learning these histories, we can build more bridges across racial boundaries to address the real political and social problems that have oppressed and continue to oppress Americans today. Although the United States is not where my family originally came from, it is where I am now, and it is a country I represent today. Just like Marcus Garvey once said, the people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. And today, I refuse to be a tree without roots.